It's Nomsa here at Nkosi Talk Shows, Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. So with me today, I'm with Dr. Bigot. How are you, Dr. Bigot? It's been a long time.
Thank you, Numsa. I am doing very well. Thank you so much. It's an honor and a delight to be with you again today.
Okay, let me check. Why is your volume so down? Or is it just me?
I'm not sure. Is the
let me
volume down?
let me check my set. Oh yeah. It's me.
It's you? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was me.
Okay. Is it
Yeah,
better?
yeah. So how was your holiday?
Oh, I've been great. I've been great. I wasn't on holiday, been very busy working and traveling for work, but I've been doing wonderfully. Thank you.
Yeah, so our topic today is how grief affects the brain and ways to heal emotionally after sudden loss. So, grief, especially after a sudden loss, deeply affects the brain and emotional well being. When someone experiences a traumatic loss, the brain goes through a range of emotionally and psychologically responses that can manifest in physical symptoms, mental fog, and intense emotional pain. So understanding how grief affects the brain and discovering ways to heal emotional can be essential for navigating such challenges time. So Dr. Bigot, you chose this topic. Would you like to explain to the audience why you chose this topic?
Thank you, Numsa. Of course. Now, to start with, I am a grief and trauma recovery specialist. In particular, my specialty is in what nowadays in the world of psychology and psychiatry here in the US, DSM-5 called prolonged, complex, complicated grief. What got me there is my training as well as personal experience. But back to the topic is some things that for two reasons. There are a lot of people experiencing sudden loss in all over the world with everything's going on in the world, with all the natural disaster and so forth. That is sometimes, and this lead to the second reason. So people are experiencing a lot of loss, and it could be sometimes it could be even somebody from the outside, they might not see it as a sudden loss. Let's say you have somebody who is elderly and you say, well, everybody else with their common and logical mind say, yeah, but the person's elderly. But if the person's elderly and healthy, and then this person suddenly passed away, for the loved one, a lot of time it's still seen as a sudden loss. And so sudden loss, not necessarily say your cousin or your child or your significant other who is young suddenly passed away. It could be that, it could be the definitions of grief is the unsettled feelings caused by any change, any loss, and any unmet hope. Change could be natural disaster, could be sudden changes in your environment, whether it is politics, it's economy, it is some natural disaster, any of those. So the first is a lot more and more people nowadays experience the sudden loss with everything going on in the world, with the way the natural disasters are. Second reason is the more and more people actually having awareness that grief is not only an emotional thing. In the past, so many people said, oh, I hear you grieving, get over it. It's just you're being emotional. And nowadays that we understand that grief is not just an emotional thing. When something happens, it affects our physical body completely, thoroughly. Today we go talking about the impact on the brain. And that's because it's one of the most pronounced impact that nowadays there are studies shows that prolonged grief, complicated grief, and if not completely resolved, leads to things such as dementia and memory loss and inability to learn. And we can talk more about that. But some more people are aware about that, but people don't have the informations. And then the other part is there are also because of everything going on in the world, there are more and more people that has that who are grieving and don't even know that they are grieving. And if you don't know that you are experiencing something, it's challenging to receive help. And this is also across even happening across mental health provider. If you are not a trained, knowledgeable, experienced grief specialist coach, you might not know, might not realize the person coming with you with, so let's say, depression or anxiety actually have that stem from grieving. You, as a physician, you might not know that the person coming with you with chest pain actually having that from grieving. And so it's an awareness that very useful for a lot of people, given everything that's going on in the world right now. You are muted.
I like what you're saying, Dr. Biget, because like when you say grieving affects brain, it's like I've lost my father-in-law. He died 2 weeks ago, but I felt that I've lost him long time ago because he had started having mental health. He had a stroke and then he had mental health problems. So meaning that everything, the communications changes, and him remembering us, things changed as well. So I felt that there was part of life that was no longer there, was no longer existing for me, even like because he was someone who ring me every day, so I couldn't get those phone calls anymore. Like every day he will make sure that he will call me to see that if I'm okay. And I'm glad that I've never ever dodged his phone calls and say, wow, what does he want? And just pretend that I'm not available. I always pick up his calls, or sometimes he will bring like food. He will be like, I'm in town, because we live in town as well. So he'll be like, where are you? If I'm at home, he will just pop in with cakes, or with sandwich, with all these things. But now when he had a stroke and mental health problems, these things that I couldn't have it anymore. I couldn't have that phone call. Sometimes I'll go on my phone and I'll open his number and I'll realize that actually is never going to call me. And or sometimes I'll go, like the times where we gave him the phone in the hospital. He remembered a few times to call, but then that was the things that got worse. So my grieving started a long, long time ago. And when he died, I realized that I have grieved for his death already. So I can actually agree with you that.
Yeah. And my heart goes out to you and your family. And yes, that is something that some people are aware and some people don't. That when somebody experienced with your grandfather, he experienced a stroke that causes this. But for the family, some people don't realize this, that sort of change brings about grief. Even if it's somebody a slow progressions, it's somebody started to become forgetful, and then or you notice whether it's your parents and it is your pet, not saying that one or the other is more important, but whether for some of us were really close to our pets, some of us were close to our parents, your significant other, you notice them slowing down. They used to be able to do XYZ, and then now they're becoming forgetful, or now they are becoming they're not able to walk around easily on their own. The person's experiencing that might or might not actually be grieving, because people who, let's say, losing their cognitive function, they might or might not realize that, particularly at the beginning. But the family member, they would. And actually most people don't realize that that's actually the time to start receiving support. I work with a lot of people with cancer. At the beginning, the journey is smooth. Oh, you know, everything's all nice. And not that anybody happy with cancer, but okay, well, at least everything goes as planned. 1, 2, 3, and all this thing. And then the glitches start to happen. And that's when you actually want to start receiving help. That's when you started grieving. And then we can talk a little more if you want on what grief do to your body, particularly if the person's already fighting cancers, and to your brain in particular.
But me, Dr. Bigot, I need to understand more, because if there's people that are watching, I don't want to talk too much, because I'm not a grieving coach, and I'm grieving myself. So I need to learn. So I was glad when you chose this topic. I was like, oh, okay, she's choosing a grief topic. So I'm just going to have to get my own therapy. So I just want to understand more, how does it affect your brain? Because there's someone else, like one of our coaches, that is grieving as well. So when we were talking about this grieving, and it was like, am I in denial, or have I accepted the actually death in my family? So I was like, I don't know, because he seems to have accepted it properly, but there are questions like, is questioning whether is he in denial. He doesn't feel like he's in denial, but he feels like it's kind of creepy the way he feels. So he was asking us whether, do you think he's in denial? So I was like, I don't think so, because you're talking about it.
So there's two questions there. So the first question is what grief do to the brain? I'll answer that, and then how do we know if you are actually have completed your relationship with grief, and whether you're still in, or are you in denial? So the first part is the brain part. And this is a lot of technical things. My background is in medicines as well, veterinary medicines, but still in medicine. And also the training I use for grief coaching, multiple different training, all use evidence-based. Now, so with that, we know nowadays that many studies shows that a couple things that grief do in particular. So earlier we talked about grief from sudden loss or unexpected loss, and with that, number one thing that grief do is grief actually has the ability to activate your pain center. So one thing grief does is it acts like a major stress in the body. And when many times nowadays we hear that when somebody is stressful, you actually releases a lot of cortisol, which is stress hormone, and you also from there lead to massive inflammations. And a lot of this inflammatory molecule has the ability to go into your brain. And so when somebody grieving, they actually when you're grieving, it actually activates the part of the brain that register pain. So it's sort of, this is why if you talk to people who are grieving, they're like, oh my God, you know, it feels like I'm physically painful, and it's emotional pain, but they can feel it in the body because it's, and then also people who are grieving, a lot of people, they suddenly feel their pre-existing pain even more. So for instance, someone already has arthritis. Somebody already has arthritis, back arthritis, this and that. I have a client who already has a back problem from prolapse. Many times this happened. and then something happened, they suddenly be in so much more pain. They feel the pain more. And so to activate the pain center is one, and this is particularly at the beginning. Now, over time, it's still continue to do that, but you kind of learn to start tolerating the pain to a degree. And then what it does is the grief also affected in our hippocampus, and that's very important. Why? Because the hippocampus is the part in our brain that is necessary or play a huge role in memory and emotional regulations. Nowadays, it's shown that grief, if it is not promptly resolved, so if you take it on what we call like, having it lasted for a year or even longer, it reduces your hippocampus size. And imagine that the part of the brain that for memory and learning and emotional regulations now being reduced. And the smaller it gets, the more it lost capacity. So this is how brain causes memory loss. I have clients who start forgetting things, even things that they want to remember. It's not only things that they don't remember, daily things. They're like, oh, I can't remember anymore on my my son's graduation. I can't remember my own birthday party or all these things. And this is how we are concerned now. Grief contribute to sooner onset of dementia in the elderly. But it reduces the hippocampus, which is the part of your brain that is needed for memory, for emotional regulation, and for learning. And then the grief also affected our what called the prefrontal cortex, which is your decisions making in part of your brain that play a lot of attention play a lot of role in your ability to focus, to pay attention, and to decide well. So this is why people who are grieving might notice that they're suddenly indecisive. You used to be a decisive person, and you're like, boy, I'm not sure, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. And then the other part is most people who are grieving says they can't focus. They can't concentrate. This is ongoing. From the onset of grief, it's continuing on. So people get confused. There are many people say, oh, now I would walk into a room and then I absolutely couldn't remember why I was there. One person goes into town and then completely forgot why he even went into town. And then sometimes I have people say, what is this? I could not even decide on the simplest things, such as to buy broccoli or not to buy broccoli. I stand in the grocery store 15 minutes looking at the broccoli. and please know that if you are grieving it from an outsider, people say like, oh, that's funny. It's not really funny, but the person's going through that. They're like, and many people who are not aware, including healthcare, mental health provider who are not aware of this, they say, oh my God, we better start medicating you. We better start doing this and doing that. And I even have clients coming to me saying, well, I think I'm going crazy, but I just kind of want a second opinion because my provider's concerned that I'm going crazy, or I am losing my mind, or I'm losing my memory. And I have done a bunch of tests, and then usually for these people, there is somebody in the provider group that say, maybe just want to check and see what happens if you would actually really take care of your grief. Because yeah, we've been working with you for 2 years, 4 years, 8 years, but so that is the part with the brain. And I might I hope I think I got everything there. I might or might not forgot something there. But the point, the focus is causes confusion, actually affected your brain, the ability to concentrate, to decide, to have memory, to learn, and it causes a lot of inflammations in the brain. Now, how do we know if somebody is in denial or not from grieving? A lot of time with unexpected, with acute loss, it causes a lot of shock. The number one, there are, when there is an acute loss, a sudden loss, so to say, or an unexpected loss. So in other words, somebody is fine, and then suddenly somebody, let's say somebody who is young, is fine. Your significant other is fairly young, in their 50s, and then you suddenly, boom, you got a bad news. And then before you know it, you go on this roller coaster, boom, 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 for the next 3 months, and then the person's gone. That is still considered sudden loss. It's sudden news. You didn't expect the person to get sick. And then before you did, you got into this fight or flight thing of, oh my God, got to this doctor appointment, that hospital, da. And when you're doing that, you're in the fight or flight mode. You don't have the ability and space in yourself to grieve. You just fight, and then loss. All those are still, all those are still sudden, can be, shows up as sudden loss. There is when there is a sudden loss, there is a shock or trauma component in there, that if it is a different scenario, so let's say, okay, now the individual is elderly, and yeah, you are you notice that the person starting to have difficulty walking, and then the person starting to be a little bit this way and a little bit that way, then you have sort of like understanding and prepared yourself. You grow all together, and each other are now in the 80s, and you're like, okay, it sucks, my significant other passed away slowly, but I'm not even surprised, because I'm just sitting here wondering when my time is, not to make this comical or dismiss your pain. But when there is a sudden loss, there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of shock, and a lot of time people are in this fight or flight mode. And when you are doing that, you can be numb. A lot of people depend on your kind of self mechanisms, typically more in gentlemen, but also in women. But you can be numb and you feel you're just fine, even months after the loss. And then after that, you might be at the 6 months anniversary. A lot of people come to me at 6 months or even a year anniversary, and they say, oh my God, I thought I was okay. And now it just hit me like a bit, a truckload of brick. And it's okay. Grief sometimes are in layers. And so if at this moment you said, I'm navigating this pretty well, now it's always good to speak with somebody else who are specialized in the field. But in general, if you feel okay and you're able to talk about it with joy, about the individual with joy, talk about the good memory with joy, and not feeling the pain all the time, then perhaps you are okay. And there is no timeline. I always say there's no timeline for grief, because you might be feeling okay now, because you might still be recovering from the shock state, and you are okay in recovering in that part. But then you might suddenly feel it in 6 months or a year, and that's when you say, okay, I want to receive help, because I realize I'm still navigating this. Now, some people proactive, and they said, I'm not taking that risk. I'm working with some people right now who says, okay, you know what? I'm actually able to navigate this. I can still function, but I know the risk of the grief and unrecognized grief, unknown grief, which is a whole nother talk. And then I just don't want to go there. And I'm a proactive person. I'm going to take care of this sooner than later. The loss is only last week. Haven't even received haven't have the funeral yet. Haven't received the ashes yet. But I'm going to take care of this now.
I like it, Dr. Bickett, when you talk about grief affects your decision, because when mind does not think properly and you're not able to actually make the right decisions, and also it distracts your sleeps as well. The loss of, like, when you can't sleep, where the part of the brain, like when you were explaining that, it gets affected. So it becomes like an ongoing experience of insomnia or disturbed sleep patterns. So it's really, really important if somebody is not into personal development to truly make sure that they seek help because it can actually affect. For me, I don't get affected. The loss of my father-in-law has not affected me because I'm always constantly doing my personal development. And also, I think having that time with him, because when we went homeless, so he was that place where he was like, come home. We were busy like looking for a better place, and it was like, come home. And I look at the life where my life, we lived in a big home and he was living in a small place, and we went there. But when I went there, everyone got confused in the family. Why are they living with him? But actually, I enjoyed it because in Africa, I lived with my family, and it's kind of living on my own. I felt like it's kind of lonely, but when he was there, it just felt like he was giving us that safe place. He was like, I'm just here for you if you need me. So staying, because I think we ended up staying with him for 6 months. So I think that helped me a lot to actually just feel at home and just get to know him. And even when he had a stroke, because we moved out and then he had a stroke after. But then I looked at it and I said, sometimes we don't know what tomorrow brings. Here we go, we become homeless. And then when we become homeless and then we live with him, maybe it was time when God said the kids needed to stay with them because we had the money. So it's just the house where we're meant to move into. The people changed their mind, but it didn't bother me. And I was like, maybe that was when Gary was like, the kids needed to get to know him, and I needed to spend time with him as well. So but his death is still, I just feel like it's not fair that he's gone. And sometimes I try to ignore it. I still try. I still feel that my phone is going to ring. But when I go to sleep, I know that if he was here, he would just tell me to get over things and just live my life. So all those things, because even when he couldn't remember everybody, when we go in, me and my daughter and his children as well, he wouldn't forget his children. So he would remember anything else, but he wouldn't forget his family. So which is really, really, that it gives me like comfort to say, okay, I've lost you, but I got to spend time with you. And I'm trying not to be selfish. I don't know if it's the right way. I'm grieving the right way. I don't know.
Yeah, two things with that. The first part is it the right way you're grieving? That's one thing that a lot of people are being excuse me, are being told about grief. Oh, you're supposed to be this way and that way and whichever way. And it's actually there is no right way for grieving for anybody. When you are grieving, your feelings. Now your thought can lead your feelings astray, and that's when you might want to allow guidance. But when you are grieving, your feelings always valid. Please hear that. If you or your loved one is grieving, your feelings always valid. Now, sometimes people have challenge identifying their feelings and their thought. One, I talk a bit about it more in my book, Seeking Peace, but your feelings always valid when you're grieving. So in other words, some people say, you know, I think I should be sad more, but I'm actually angry. That's okay. That's the way you navigate things. I should be angry because of this, but there is a part of me that happy. Gotta be something wrong with me. No, we don't know, and your life experience is such a way that maybe you are angry and sad and happy. It's okay. Your feelings always valid, and there is no such a thing that you need to be feeling this way. That there is a lot of misunderstanding with the stages of grief that was initially introduced by the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and the stages of grief and when you're supposed to feel what is only apply to people. It was initially created and only applied to people who are facing terminal illness. And then it was expanded to the family member of people who are facing terminal illness. And then for some reason, because there is so many, there's grief is like one of these nebulous gray matter that everybody trying to have a better understanding. People start or healthcare professionals more than others, but also people in general start taking that and applying it to everybody else. And then everybody else, which stages of grief does not apply to, start getting confused and say, well, yeah, but maybe I should be angry if I'm looking at that. Was I ever in denial? There is no such a thing. Nowadays, we know even people who are facing terminal illness doesn't always follow that order. And sometimes they follow the order, sometimes they spun around, they jump around in the whole 5 stages. So don't worry about the stages. Don't worry about, and please never let anybody tell you, should I be this way? Am I being wrong? Am I being right? Your feelings always correct. And that might be an 180-degree different from your spouse, might be very different from even your previous experience. So this is people say, oh, I lost my father and I feel A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. And then now I lost my mother and then I don't feel that. And then so you're trying to compare your own experience. Please don't do that. Every loss is unique and your feelings meant to be unique moment to moment. So people say, I feel okay this morning, and then I suddenly feel angry for no good reason, and then now I feel really sad, and I'm seemingly changed every moment. Remember, the grief affect the brain that regulates their emotional ability. So that is something that normal. It's people come to me and say, with the recent grief, my significant other, my parents, I lost my parents a week ago, 3 days ago. What do I expect? What do I expect in my emotion in the next weeks or 3 or what have you? And I have one answer: roller coaster. And roller coaster, up and down and up and down and left and right. And they're like, well, I don't want that. Said, well, we can help you navigate that, but I'm not about to stop that. And I can help you move through. We don't get over something. We move through it. With grief is not something you can get over. If it is an impactful grief, you don't get over that. You navigate it, you process this. It will change you, just like many of us. We talk about other grief you've experienced in the past. Pneumocide change you. And at the same time, you can move through it and allow it to change you for such that in a way that's for the better, instead of damaging your health, your brain. And you mentioned earlier, which is a great point, many people don't even realize they are grieving. And yeah, symptoms such as not able to sleep after a loss, suddenly losing yourself. So in other words, you have a loss and then you think you feel okay, but suddenly you lost your appetite, you change your eating pattern greatly, you're not able to sleep, or you start having physical symptoms. One of the things we talked earlier, grief causes inflammation and increase in cortisol hormone. So you suddenly having a flare-up of chronic condition, fibromyalgia and all these different things. You suddenly having migraine, you suddenly having some form of health conditions, or a couple years down the road, I have a few clients by now come to me, and their oncologists tell them to find grief specialists. The oncologists look at what their experience and say, you know, cancer happen from multiple different reasons, but one of these we suspect is your grief. Go find a grief specialist. So yeah.
Thank you. I totally get you, Dr. Biggett, because and also I find what has helped me is when I decided to accept where my life was, living that life without him. And that's when I was able to actually find that acceptance and just feel at peace, knowing that this is where I am. I'm going to have to accept that he's no longer going to be here, but this is where God has put me. So I need to accept this change and not fighting against what is happening and just accept it. It kind of made things better.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it made everything feel not 100%, but give me hope that someday when I go to heaven, I will be able to see him.
Yeah, it's acceptance, true acceptance. There is difference many times in personal development. Even those who are in personal development, we focus on our mind. And so when we talk about acceptance, if you talk about acceptance with me, I always ask, do you accept it in your mind, or is it a true acceptance where you accept it in your heart as well? But the true acceptance, when you truly accept it in your heart, then that is actually the place where you can have accomplishments. And with your experience with your father-in-law, it sounds like, life happened in such a way. Sometimes we're like, why life happened this way when we're going through it? But I hear this with many people, and they say, I have a colleague long time ago who broke his leg and so because of the nature of his work, he was out for almost 6 months. And literally less than a month from the time he broke his leg, once he was a little better and able to be home, really, his boy got diagnosed with a sudden illness. And so he was there with the boy the whole time for over 6 months. And every day it's just like him and the boy, him and the boy, him and the boy. And then the boy passed. It was still incredibly painful. It was still incredibly painful. But he said, at least in the strangest way, I did not do one thing, which is if that had not happened, he was going up in his career and he was with his family less and less time. And he said when that happened, when he broke his leg and then the boy got sick, he said, okay, so he was able to put all the time in there, and basically the boy passed away less than a year later, and it was incredibly painful, but he said at least I was able to have that time that I would not have otherwise, and was able to be present and so forth. So it's similar to your experience with you of choosing to stay at his home. And then and as you said, it's one of those that you could have stayed somewhere else. You just choose to stay at his home, and it could be very helpful with that. And then sometimes it does allow us to have the true peace, the true acceptance in our heart, and in additions to in our mind. You are muted.
All right, I'm muted. If someone is watching right now and they have these questions like, why is my mind predict the worst when I think about my loved one that I've lost? So, what can you say to them?
What is my mind? What?
Predict the worst when I
What?
think about my loved one.
What? I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said.
Why is my mind predict the worst when I think about my loved one that I've lost?
Predict it worse?
Predict the worst.
Do you mind writing it down? I'm sorry, I just not understanding the word.
Why is like if someone says, why is my mind like predict, like think worse things, like worse things comes into their mind, like
Okay.
predictions, like they predict worse.
Okay. About when they think about their loved ones.
Yeah, instead of thinking about good stuff, but they think about worse things and stuff.
Who are still here. The
Yeah,
loved ones who are
those
alive.
they've lost. Yeah,
About the loved one when they are here, who are still alive, or the person has passed.
past.
Okay, the person who has passed. So if it is something that is somebody who has passed away. So somebody passed away, and whenever you think about the person, you can only think about the pain and the negative, so to say, in this day and age wording. Then remember, one of the thing grief does is activation of pain centers to your brain. And so in this case, it will bring up your pain, and then it is something that when you're feeling pain, everything look cloudy in your mind, and then you also grief affected your ability to the emotion, the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex, all these things. So it is directing your mind to pain, directing your mind to things that are negative. That is a sign that you might still be grieving, or that could be one sign you still be grieving. You're not able to, or you are much more prone to remember the sad part, the loss, the pain, everything that's negative, that is not wonderful associated with that person. That could be because you're still grieving, in your brain is still feeling the pain. And if you are, let's just use physical pain for example. If somebody is in great pain right now, for maybe someone break their legs, I often use the analogy of broken heart with a broken leg. If you break your leg, would you more likely to feel things that are painful or notice things that hurt your legs more versus things that are wonderful? Would you be noticing that, oh God, the leg hurt, and then because your leg hurt, gee, you know what, now because my leg hurt, I've been sitting lopsided, now my hip hurt, and then now my back hurt, and then, oh God, I just realized how uncomfortable this chair is. Oh my goodness, oh my God, I never realized how the bed is actually a little bit too tall, why didn't I have a stool? And all these things, you suddenly like noticing everything that's wrong around you because your leg hurt. And then somebody running around and then causing a lot of vibrations on the floor, and then it could be children running around happy. What you notice, not children running around happy, you notice that the vibrations on the floor. Anybody have ever broken their leg? Know this. I have broken bones before. This is how I know from experience. Somebody is like running around, you're like, the vibration hurt your leg, and you're like, whoa, okay. At that moment, you won't be noticing happy children. You're noticing your leg hurt, and you're noticing how actually the sensitive the floor are, and you're noticing why people running around in the middle of the day. That is why, because you are some part of you're still in pain, and you might not even realize you are in pain when it comes to grief, is what it is. And so, but a lot of time you might still, some part of you are still in pain. And then, and this is very common. Everybody that come to me at the beginning, they talk about this is painful and that painful. And then when you ask about the part of if they talk about the memory, they talk about everything that's painful. And it seems to be really difficult to find out good things and happy things and so forth. They come up with a couple. And then as they continue to recover from the grief, from the trauma, from the pain, then they start to shift and say, oh, this is actually was great. This is great. I'm remembering this good thing now. And this. So that a lot of time is an indication. If you remember somebody and you remember the pain, the loss, but also you remember much more of things that is not pleasant. And now this is depend on the relationship. There are relationships where you don't have much pleasant things happen. But if the relationship was pretty healthy in general, and now you seems to remember all the bad things, so to say, then it's something that you might not even realize it, but you are still in pain and still grieving, and you would want to find ways to be able to move through the grief, recover from it fully and completely, which is absolutely possible, regardless of how long it has been. And then to be able to move forward, not get over, but move forward in your life.
May I have good questions? Why does good memories hurt the most? When you lose someone, and you think about the good times you've had with them, and that hurts. Is it not meant to be the other way around? Why does it hurt?
No, the good memory can hurt very much because that's remind you of your loss. Nobody want to be in pain, but we want to feel good. And when you remember the good one, then you say, okay, so if you have good memories and it still hurts more than it feels good, that's also another sign that you're still grieving. That you think about, oh, now the beautiful time that he brings food. I'm using this example. And for some people who has moved through and beyond their grief, this is not for me to point fingers at anybody, but for people who has completed and moved through and beyond their grief, they remember that memory with a smile. And they remember that memory with good feeling in their heart, with actually joy in their heart, and much less pain, if any. If the good memory still brings you pain, it still hurt, you are still grieving. And knowing the impact of grief on us, we would want to allow ourselves to receive proper support to be able to move and through. One classic telltale of being able to one way, there are many different ways. One way to tell that you actually have moved through and completely with grief is you're able to you remember more and more of the good memory, and looking at them, you actually smile and laugh and feel good in you the way that you would have when the person was still alive. For some of us, that might sound almost impossible or ridiculously unrealistic, but I do have many, many clients, and so is the Grief Recovery Institute and all these other organizations that I'm trained and certified by. Well, many, many people who says, do we miss the person? Yeah, of course, you might still miss the person. So I miss some loved one who passed away 20 years ago. I say, I still miss. But when I talk about the good memory, there is no sadness in me. There is only gratitude and joy and cheer. If it is even something funny, it's just fun. And so that's still making you feel a lot of pain. That is an indication that you're still grieving.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. I think allowing yourself to feel that pain, and even if it's anger, just allow yourself to feel whatever feeling that you go through. But as long you don't stay too long, because I find myself when I deny myself to feel the pain, it doesn't go away. But when I allow to feel that pain, to feel that anger, to be like, I can't feel anger anymore when someone dies in my family because I've learned to heal myself and stuff, but it's still, there's that part of, why do you have to go? It's like with my father-in-law, was like, why did you have to go? Why didn't you wait another day? So I was like, why did he have to like choose to go?
And
Because
it could be a yes and. Yes,
yeah,
you want to you want to not deny your feelings. Yes, we want to not deny our feelings, and not that you want to sit there and feel pain for no good reasons, but you're absolutely correct. You want to allow yourself to not to feel your feelings, not to deny your feelings. And sometimes people, and this is unfortunately what some make people accidentally end up with complex or prolonged grief, because they said, well, I want to be to honor this, and I want to be able to honor myself or honor the person and allow myself to feel the pain. You can do that, and you can also start moving forward at the same time. Now, many people in many different trainings say, okay, you want to get over this and this and that. With certain training, including with myself, I actually don't do that. People work with me. Sometimes some people come very soon after the loss, very soon after the loss. And I say, this is all the tools that you have. This is the step. It's like a path. Now, this is the path that you have here. And this is the tools, A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, step, 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 step. And at some point, if you say, you move halfway down the path and you say, you know what? And sometimes this is even partial. One recent client, he says, I'm ready to move forward in this piece, but I want to continue to feel the pain for whatever reason that he does. It's everybody's different. I want to continue to feel the pain on this part for a little longer. I just not ready. I said, that's absolutely okay. You don't have to. You can move forward in this part here, and you can stay and slow down in that part. And when you're ready, the good part is when you're ready, you already have the tool. The path is on the door already open. The path is already there. You just need to walk it. Instead of, I want to feel the pain. I don't want to move first. I don't want to, this is another thing. People worry about forgetting their loved ones. And if you listen to this from the beginning, you might catch that moving moving through and forward from your grief. So recovering from your grief will only help you remember your loved one. It's not going to help you make you forget your loved one. It will help you remember your loved one with the good memory. Right now, if a good memory hurts, you're not going to want to remember it. That's human nature. And then over time, you start reducing this memory from pain. But if you are able to remember the good memory with true joy and ease, then you would remember it more and more and more. That's also human nature. What feels good, you want more, and you remember it more and more and more. So you remember your loved one more. But with the feeling the pain, you can do what I call the yes and. In people come to me and said, everybody tell me I got to forgive. I just can't forgive. I said, no, you don't have to forgive. I can help you recover without having to forgive 100% or even 50%. Yes, you feel guilty and you kind of feel that you need to punish yourself. Sometimes this has happened. I need to punish myself for feeling guilty, but I do want to recover from the grief, and I want to be able to think clearly. I don't want to have all this side effect from grief. Okay, we're not going to force you to not feel guilty. this is how we do it. It's when I work with people, it's a combinations of 5 prongs, so to say: mind, heart, body, energy, spirit. And so you can do both. You can be feeling the pain, but you can also be navigating and moving forward, not accidentally get stuck in there.
I love that. I love that. If there's do you have any words, encouragements you would like to leave with our audience, Dr. Biggett? Because it's 3 minutes. And sorry, guys, I didn't talk too much today because I just wanted Dr. Biggett to cover loads of things because she's a grief specialist. And I didn't want to take that time. And also I wanted to just to sit back and just listen so I can have my own healing as well, because I've lost my father-in-law. So any words of encouragement, Dr. Biggett?
Yeah, my words of encouragement is it doesn't matter how long it has been. 2 things. It's never too soon. Knowing that what we talked earlier, what grief does to your brain and to your whole body physically, including some shrinking your hippocampus and triggering and activating all these brain center that, or messing up all these brain center that you don't want to get messed up. It's never too early to receive help to fully recover from grief, but it's also never too late. I have helped people who has been grieving for over 60 years and tried practically in these people who are everything out there, from therapy and counseling and medications and mushroom and mindset coaching and you name it. And it still helps. So it's never too early. It's never too late. And if somebody you know is grieving, I am doing a free public workshop on October 26th. It's 9 a.m. in the US, California time. So I think it's about 5 or 6 p.m. in the UK time. And you're welcome to join and learn more. You will gain tools from that workshop. In other words, even if you come to the workshops, you never see me or hear me anymore, you'll still gain some beneficial tools in there to help you or your loved one move through grief and recover from grief and trauma.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Biggett. We really, really appreciate you. For me, I would say to everyone, sudden loss can feel overwhelming, but there are ways to heal emotionally over time, just by acknowledging the grief and seeking support and practicing mindfulness as well. For me, that's what is actually, it helps me a lot. And also asking Dr. Biggett if I don't feel too good, she knows that I will ask her how I'm feeling, my feelings. So it's really, really important, whether you are men. I know men they feel that they have to man up. There is nowhere in the Bible where it says a man has to man up. We all get same feelings. We get sadness. So it's really, truly important to seek support and make sure that we're dealing with these things of grief properly. Like Dr. Biggett said, grief is not just death. Grief is everything that we lose in our lives that is important to us, that has a meaning to us. So please, if you're watching us from YouTube, please do subscribe to our channel. And if you're watching us from Facebook, please share the videos. And LinkedIn family, please do share our videos, and Twitter. Live with grace, everyone. And don't forget to go on the website as well if you're looking for love, www.hseia.com. And if you want to find your own voice as well, it's the same website but different page. You can just get in touch with us. And God bless and live with grace.